I would say my Lupinus and
Oh, I'm so
McKean.
glad you said that. I saw that and I was like, bro, I wanted to almost like just stop you right there. Like, bro, what is this? What
Yeah.
is this lupinus? What are you doing there? Fail.
Okay. Now there, I think I actually got skill ups on her too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, goddamn.
No, no. Okay. Cool. Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, fail. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Childish. We are back at it again with yet another episode of Educate and Dominate, that one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names in the game and get their insights so we can bring your game to the next level. My next guest is going to be one to remember. We have ourselves a representative from one of the most consistent top 5 guilds on the global server, formerly ranked #1 guild on the global server. We got ourselves Pando from the guild Oblivion. How are we doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm all fired up, as I always say. You know what I'm saying? I'm all fired up. It's always a pleasure to have you communicate with me on the side, but now I have the opportunity to bring you on the Educate and Dominate series so we can pick your brain for our guests. So thank you so much for taking the time and energy to come on board with us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, buddy. All right. So again, guys, Oblivion. You might have heard the name, but not have seen. You maybe don't see a lot. Up in the top ranks, you see them, but they're kind of a dark storm. They're kind of a dark horse. You know what I'm saying? Like a quiet storm. So I'm gonna have Pando kind of invite you into the world of Oblivion. Then why don't you go ahead and talk about it? I know initially you did not come. You did not form the guild. You came from a previous guild. So why don't you kind of talk about your journey, working your way into Oblivion, and your initial thoughts of the guild and how it's come to today.
All right. Well, initially I probably started gaming. Let's see, in uh, January, February of last year is when I first picked up the game and started kind of getting into it. And I joined a guild called Infamous 113. And it was just kind of a name based on the channel that a lot of people hung out and played. But after a few months of being there, I realized that I wanted to, try a more progressive top end guild. So I looked around and ended up joining Oblivion. Uh, Now the backstory on them, from what I can remember, Goku telling me was that they were part of another guild, and then most of the people ended up leaving for the Europe server and left about 8 members left. They renamed the guild Oblivion and ended up started just recruiting people and trying to build it from the ground up. So I joined them probably, I'd say, 4 months ago, something like that. And initially, my idea was to join a guild that did not rush on Saturday and one that was consistently in the tops and that consistently showed results, even without having the huge top 5 players on the server, whatever it might be. But I applied, got accepted, and ended up making some great friends. Realized it was a really great guild, and they are very smart, just quiet. You don't see them talk a lot in other channels. They don't brag. They don't
Right.
really kind of have shut their stuff, but they do show results consistently by just being able to rank as well as we do.
Gotcha. So as far as the guild goes, what do you guys like? How many members do you generally run in there? Are you running the full 25? Are you running a smaller group or whatnot?
Right now, we've got 26 members in the guild. I think we're running 24 on defense, 24 offense, of course. And we used to run 25. We rotate one person in and out if need be. Usually, it was one of the either officers or Goku that would volunteer for that. But we normally run a full roster of 25 for the most part. Just recently, we've had to drop down to 24.
Gotcha, gotcha. It's funny that we talk about the amount of numbers, so to speak. I want to get your take on something that I see a lot of people, kind of discuss on the side, but don't really feel that it might play a vital role in it or whatnot. Obviously this Educate and Dominate series is going to be focused on Oblivion, the guild, and getting the opportunity to see some of you guys' top end guild war defense, and unique setups. But as you guys might have guessed that are listening, I want to get a couple of questions that are kind of outside the box and get you guys tuned in. So if you are a guild leader or vice leader or whatnot, you can use these tools to improve your group. Now, we got a lot of people coming on board and they're making a guild, and you see them in the chat channels, the forums, and whatnot. They're trying to get 30 people all day long. Do you value the high end numbers or whatnot, or do you feel like when people are trying to create these guilds that just kind of maybe trying to focus in on the quality versus quantity, or what's your take on that?
Well, there's pros and cons to both sides. If you have more people, then you have more room for error. You have more room for either people not using the swords, people not doing as well or performing as well. You've got a little bit more kind of leeway in terms of, okay, well, these people are always going to perform well. We're going to go ahead and get the maximum amount of HP reduction on each tower from them, and then if we run out of swords or something like that, then we're still going to be okay. Whereas if you have less people, let's say you've got 12, 15 people, something like that on your in your guild, every single sword counts, and it counts for more if you have one person with 3 swords not being used. So you've got that error, a little bit of room for error if you have more people, but if you have less people, then as long as everyone performs, you're probably going to get better results overall
Yeah.
because the way that the HP towers are kind of geared and the percentage you have to reach based on the amount of people in your guild.
Yeah, very, very strong, and definitely that's all around that offensive mark. I'll kind of add on to you there for the people that are listening. On the defensive side, take note that going for that quality versus quantity is not too bad on the defensive side too. If you take the opportunity to develop your 10 to 15, 15 to 20 players, guild war defense is so strong. You're going to be forcing those guilds that are bringing in 25 to a group of 15 to basically obviously have to take down more percentage, but they're forced to attack people that they may not want to attack because they got a limited amount of people, right? A lot of times you look at this wide realm of 25 people and you see you got a lot of choices to do, and you look for you try to take the best opportunity to secure that win. But with a smaller group, it makes it a little bit harder. So that does come into play when it comes to the high end thing and whatnot.
Yep. And especially, I mean, a lot of guilds even get to the point where they have to kind of have 3 or 4 of their strongest players wait to use the swords for the very last minute and let the weaker players hit who they know they can beat. Target certain defenses that they know they're strong against and take those out. And then the people that have more, 6-star units to work with, have them worry about the stronger or the defenses that were not as easily beaten by the rest of their guildies.
Yeah, buddy, I like it. I like it. All right, so getting into that Oblivion again, like you stated before, the difference between your original guild and then moving on to the high-end competitive guild, there was a lot of big changes, to say the least. What do you think are some of the things that you learned right away from moving into that top-end guild that you enjoyed or definitely helped within your guild grow? Great. What are some of those things that you've learned that you feel that can be valuable to our viewers listening today?
I learned that everything that you know at G1 and G2 in guilds is pretty much non-applicable in G3.
Oh man,
Not
I'm
to that
so
point.
glad you said
Not
that.
that bad. It's not that bad. But there's a huge gap in speed and the way that the comps are synchronized and the way that they're utilized and the runing and stuff like that. It's a lot more intricate. It's a
Yes.
lot more kind of a lot more forethought goes into the defenses in G3 guilds versus G1, G2, when you pretty much just say, okay, these units look like they'll do well together. I'm going to put them in there. Or these 3 units are different elements, and there's an armor break here, and I've got immunity. Okay, let's see if this works. When you get to G3, I mean, pretty much every defense has mons that are either identical speed with one just placed before the other, or within one speed of each other, so that every defense has a sequence of attacks that launches against you when you go against them offensively.
Yeah.
And being able to find a way to defend against that while mounting an offense to beat that becomes pretty challenging at some points.
It does. It does. And I'm so excited that you said it the way. Excuse me. That you said it the way you did, because I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to get it out there because I know that some of the people that might be listening might have the same situation. With regards to, our side in the Epic Fail community, we look for, a handful of things, but most notably, obviously the units, the runes, the synergy, and not just the experience, but the performance. Some people, those last two, the experience and performance of a player, they can have the best units of runes, but maybe they're not synchronized, or maybe they have all three, but they just can't perform well, right? And then in addition to be able to perform reasonably okay, it kind of goes hand in hand with experience because like I said, G1, G2, G3 is completely different, and I feel bad because sometimes you get these recruits that come on board or want to come on board, and they're like, "Hey, you didn't accept me," and I'm like, "Well, you're sitting there with a picture of your contribution in a Conqueror 3 guild. I'm glad you got a Zyros, but I can't I can't help you there." And I like the realistic The reality of it is that um, you definitely need to consider all aspects of the game. Obviously, I'm more than happy, and any other guild is more than happy to give you the opportunity to perform if you are units or unit. But at the end of the day, experience is what's going to keep you at that high end level, because as you stated, Guardian 3, it's a whole different ball game. Everybody's continuously grinding those runes, those grindstones. They're constantly evolving their teams. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
crazy out there. It's crazy.
And just to give you a bit of an example of what I mean by that, whenever I was in Infamous 113, I would win, I'd say 95, 90, 99% of my offenses, and I would win probably about 50 to 60% of my defenses in, G1, G2 rankings. And I felt like I was doing pretty well. Well, my very first week in Oblivion, my defense went 0, 1, 19. I had one draw and 19 losses in my first week in Oblivion.
Yep.
It was horrible, I'm thinking to myself, where did I go wrong? What's going on here? How is it that my defenses that were doing so well at one point are literally just being run over like they're nothing now? And even my offenses, I would go from having all successes to maybe 65 something like that percent success rate, and the rest draws and then losses.
Yep.
And it now I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty confident in my abilities to where I almost always get successes, a few draws, and I haven't gotten a loss in a while, thank God. But it's it was a rude awakening. It's a really different ball game, and you don't realize how big the change is until you get there, and then notice I don't know, you watch these defenses wreck you, and you wonder what happened, and you just got like one turn in the whole time.
Yep. Yep, definitely, and it's crazy that you say that. I feel like we're at a focus group, right? We're getting all of our feelings out on the table, right? I'm gonna say the same thing too. As you guys know, I try to stay humble, stay grounded and whatnot. But I'll put it out there. When we kind of got going on in the Guardian 1, Guardian 2, and then climbing up into Guardian 3, I did exceptionally well. Rarely drew on a fight. Always won. Every once in a while draw. But the farther I go into G3 with my current guild, the more draws and even losses I get now. And it's crazy because people are saying, how can you lose? You're sitting there choosing a thing. It's like these people are bringing. I mean, what you see is not what they generally have. That's what people don't get sometimes, and so that's the beauty of this game, that there's not one way to ruin a unit. You can definitely mix it up. I know we're going to be talking about it later with some trap defenses and whatnot, but man, I'm excited to get into that stuff.
Me too, man. Me too.
All right. Let me see. Actually, before we get into draft, I want to get into trap, but I can't skip over my stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
The first thing that we want to dip into before we take a look at your guys' particular setups and whatnot is when it comes to some of the things that you see time and again, there's a lot of things that people make common mistakes when it regards to either Guild War offense setups or defense setups or whatnot, so on and so forth. What are, in your eyes, what are some of the common mistakes you see people make when you're fighting of the guilds in the that maybe you saw even in the G1, G2 range, or even now in the G3 range?
I would say, for one, they don't think of I'll use the word theme for their defense. Like, what is the goal of your defense? What is their job? What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to be able to take the damage and then be able to lash back or heal through and then just slowly pick off the opponent? Are they meant to be an offensive unit that's going to try and hit get a first strike and go ahead and take out one of their mons or something like that? Or what goal does your comp have? And not if you look at your team as, okay, I'm going to have my team, I want this monster to move, I want this one to move, this one's going to apply the armor break, this one's going to kill something off, they're going to pick it off after that. You look at a sequence of events that your team needs to do, instead of just saying, okay, well, these three monsters I think will do okay, or I fit all the criteria by picking an armor break and picking my immunity. Just the basics that people think is okay enough for defense to work when it's really not.
Yeah. Crazy. Now let's flip the script on that. Let's say if there was something for some of these up and coming players to take note on not just the common 60, but like if you were to tell them, hey, if you're trying to really get into that competitive level, bring that performance, bring that experience, what are some of the things that you should focus on initially when it comes to the setting up of those teams and whatnot? We got a lot of things we need to do, the units, the runes, the signature, whatnot. the composition, the elemental advantage or disadvantage, the makeup of your team. What do you think is like that number one or number two thing that people that are coming up that are more beginner intermediate should focus on?
I would say don't look at your teams as two 3-on-3 fights. Instead, look at your team as a 6-on-6 fight.
I love it.
Look at whenever whenever you make your defense. For me, for instance, when I look at my defense, I look at how can I draw out certain units with my first defense that would normally be strong against my second one, but my second one can take advantage of and use it to beat them. For instance, like draw out a Tessarion with some units that have that Oblivion would be strong on, and then have your second team have a Camilla or something like that that has another passive that normally should be neutralized, but they can't because they've already used that one before, or similar something like that. Use a make the draw out their Chloe in the first one,
Yep.
and then use a defense that really would have worked on the second one.
That's
That
it.
really makes a huge difference, and not only because of the fact that it works for your team, but whenever you have the chance of eliminating one or some monsters on an opponent team, you make it easier for your guild to win as a whole. And that's kind of how, Oblivion as a whole does so well, is because if we don't beat somebody, or even if we pull a draw, even if we lose, we're going to take out one or two of your mons, and we're going to make it harder for you to beat our next, a guildie of ours.
Yeah, couldn't even said it better, right? Like I think about like the number one unit that everybody uses in every aspect of the game, Bella. It's a crucial part of a lot of people's compositions, especially if you're like a free to play player trying to get some new units or whatnot. And
Yeah.
and that Chloe mention or whatnot, forcing somebody to choose between, are they going to bring their Bella to remove beneficial effects on this team or that team? It's crucial. It's crucial. Great answer. I love that. So talking about the 6-on-6 or whatnot, a lot of things that we see in the top ranks is an interesting balance of stall teams, trap teams, or YOLO-based teams. There's a lot of focus I've seen lately on some YOLO-based teams because I guess generally a lot of people are using their offense to secure those wins or whatnot. But defense, as you already know, plays a crucial part in the top 10 guild wars and whatnot. So what's your take on the balance of stall, trap, or YOLO kind of setups? And should it be something to think about, or is it just put your best units with the best runes, synergize as best you can?
Oh no, I mean absolutely. You have uh, defense built defenses were the thing for for a long time, and it wasn't until recently that it's kind of changed and shifted into these YOLO really fast offenses. I mean defenses that are geared to take out one of your units or something like that before you have a chance to react to it, making it a 3-on-2 fight, which in Guild Wars is pretty much a huge, not a guarantee, but it's really you're pretty much sure in to win if you can take out a key monster on your opponent. You know, so but you do have to have a little more synergy for it and be able to understand when you can actually make a YOLO team that's viable. You need to have that Perna, you need to have that Zaros, that hard hitting monster at Sierra that's going to guarantee killing something. But if you try and go into it and kind of half don't really put everything into it, you're going to end up with two mediocre teams that just get run over. And in the end, you've lost. You haven't benefited your guild any by taking any of their monsters out, and you've just given free points away. So picking between the two, and I mean trap defenses are not easy. Trap defenses are really tough to pull off properly because most of the time they're trapped for a certain type of composition. So you're trapping, you're luring in a certain opponent in order to be able to secure that win. But against most other setups, it's going to be an easy win for the for your opponent. So there's I don't know, there's a fine line between the three.
Yep. I love it. So, so when we're talking about some of the other things that really make or break, where a person at is with, with regards to, if they're G1, G2, or GT level, is not only all those compositions that we talked about, but the utilization of will within their composition. So, tell me a little bit about your thought process on will. Should it be something that these G1, G2 guilds focus on before their units, runes, and synergy, or is this something that only pertains to the top end players? What do you think?
Oh no, absolutely. Everyone should put will on almost anything if possible. I made the mistake of throwing away so many will runes back in the day and that I really regret. But at the time I'm thinking to myself, okay, immunity, I've got a Chloe, I'm okay, I don't need it. Yeah, that wasn't the smartest call. But just will runes take away that Wombo, they take away that initial strike that people like to use Because let's face it, a lot of times people are on a tight schedule. They want to find the fastest, most efficient way of destroying their enemy and being able to clear their wings really quick and get their points, or whether out of laziness or whether out of just being pressed for time. That's what they like to do. So if someone can easily just use a Bernard Galleon and a nuker to take out a whole team, that will can pretty much just stop them in their tracks. And not only that, but it also works for bombers. But armor break is one of, if not the biggest damage multiplier in the game.
Sure.
You put armor break on something, and the changes the amount of damage you can do to it. Double at least, and it just completely sways the game if you have that armor break applied onto you or not. So preventing stuns, preventing attack bar reduction, all that kind of stuff for a turn is huge. And even hell, some units you can even just put 2, will runes on and give it 2 rounds of immunity if you want to. Whatever you need to do to make sure that they survive long enough for them to move. Because right now everyone's making those 270 to 300 speed Bernards, and Orion's a huge deal. And not only will, but also shield runes. This is a thing that's been going on recently, and at least in G3 meta and up in arenas, combining shield runes with will runes, because an Orion only takes away 1 total buff from all of the mons, and if you have shield runes on there, it gives them a choice between will or a shield, and can leave the will on there, keeping your mons alive and giving them a chance to move and do their sequence of attacks.
Good deal. And so, going back to what you were saying with regards to, talking about that will rune, I just wanted to clarify, I guess, my question, just so we're on the same page. Like, obviously, the importance of will is really, really strong, but we gotta think about the synergy of the team, and especially for those G1, G2 guilds, they're really understanding the value of speed and what getting that initial turn can do for your composition, as far as being able to cripple an opponent, like we were stating before, and that's so strong when it comes to the ultimate, end goal and whatnot. So, in your eyes, for some of these upper cup players, do you do what you do and say, hey, let me put a swift broken set, get myself 273 speed, or do I say, oh, I got to follow Pando's rule and get that will on and switch over, drop myself, 20 or 30 speed just to get that will set on to be more competitive in that aspect? What's your take on that?
Well, I think it also depends. I mean, everything in this game is completely reliant on what drops you get. Sure. If you don't get the speed drops, then you're kind of screwed in the first place. If you get good will speeds, then ideally, obviously if I had the choice, I would go will for all my speedy attack boosting mons, but I just don't have that luxury just because the speed subs on my will runes aren't high enough. But as far as dropping the speed, it kind of depends on the monster. It depends on how you want to use it. For me, for instance, my Ryan is probably my fastest mon, but I use Leo a lot too. So it kind of changes the dynamic a bit because of my ability to kind of reduce that initial attack bar. And my Orion's fast enough so that most monsters that aren't on will are going to be either slower than him or roughly the same, giving me the turn afterwards if I use the two together.
Cool. Very cool. And while we're looking at these units here real quick, we're just about to jump into the top Guild War defenses on your side. I wanted to give you an opportunity just to kind of showcase basically your number one favorite kind of top position, whether we're talking about offense or defense. What's your favorite composition you like to play with?
For offense, one of my safe ones is either my Wind Monkey with Vela and Praha. Those 3 right there are pretty safe for 95% of teams that I face in Guild War. Either that, or I'll do or even Theo with them, depending on the elemental advantage for the opponent. And then also, if there's not much to strip, I'll go with, let's say, Camila Kassoon and Vela, maybe, if it's against Theo type comps that are going to end up doing a lot of damage. If I just keep will up on myself with Vela, then Kassoon can heal through pretty much any type of damage they want to dish out at me. Fire monkeys, anything like that, I just let her tank all day long and keep my immunity up and just have my nuke or whatever it might be pick them off. It doesn't now. Also, my Vela's on will runes, and then on my Theo's on will, and sometimes I'll even combine Mihail in there, which is also on will. So the 3 of them on will as an offense against certain like Galleon, Bernard, Zyros type defenses if I need to.
Cool. cool. And let me see here. I want to kind of throw this out there because it's something that I think about all the time. A lot of people got Jasoon. A lot of people understand the value of Jasoon and whatnot. And we all understand that in this game, speed is a big thing. But if anyone were ever to take a look at the top 100, like in the arena, this and that, whatever, they're going to see a multitude of different types of Jasoons. We understand that a lot of our healers out there are generally run with speed, HP, but some people understand the value of the Amuse and understand that 20% of its max HP, there's a big focus on getting as much HP as possible. So when looking at a particular Jasoon, obviously you have some absurd substats here that give you, 73 speed all day without going on the 2 slot, right now. But when we're thinking about some of these, again, trying to focus on some of the beginner and intermediate players, where would you draw the line as far as the amount of hit points that you want to have on a particular Jasoon if you were trying to go speed? So if you were to go speed on 2, what would be a nice end goal of hit points that you want to have for Jasoon before any kind of HP towers and leader skills come into play?
To be honest, I wouldn't go off a benchmark that someone set so much as I would go off of the composition I'm running her with.
I love it. Perfect.
Kasuna is only as strong as the team you run her with. If you make her too fast and she ends up getting that buff up right away, okay, cool. Your monsters, if you run her with Theo, for instance, Theo ends up getting killed and, you're screwed. You're out of luck. Whereas when I used to run Theo and Kasuna together, I would make Kasuna 1 speed slower than my Theo. That way, if whenever Theo gets lower, whenever he moves, then she would immediately go after and heal him back up to full after his endured proc and not giving the opponent a chance to kill him in between that time frame.
Yeah, definitely. And so, and obviously, synergy is definitely a crucial part. But take note, like he said too, the composition of it. So, obviously, some people might like put the speed on to do what they got to do to synergize the team. But they're like, oh, I just dropped my hit points down to under 30k, or my hit points, and so my heal is not going to be as effective. Well,
Yeah.
it's all related to the composition that you're bringing, guys. If you're bringing a hybrid brace unit with a damage dealing, one shot, like let's talk about Theo Orion, Jasoon, that's an amazing composition that a lot of people use. You may only heal 8,000, but if you're talking about 8,000 out of your Theo's 14,000, that's still a reasonably decent amount of hit points. You know what I'm saying?
But if you're using a Kumar that's got a 50k, then it's not as
effective.
Much, and you might exactly.
Definitely. Yep. Cool. Alrighty. I got so many other units that I want to take a look at, but let's go ahead and get into that meat and potatoes of the interview. I can't get enough of these guild wars in here, so we will be right back. All right, so we're back here. We got ourselves, I think, about 9 different compositions. We're actually going to start out with Pando set up. Let's take a look at it. First off, we got ourselves Jultan, Camilla, Jasoon, and then finishing off with Theo, Velajul, and then, of course, Mihal. So let's talk about a little bit the composition, your pros and cons to it, and what you like about these teams.
Well, the first one, all 3 mons are pretty tanky. My Kasoon's got almost a little bit under 40 HP. My Camilla's got 22, 23k. Jultan's got right around 40, I think. So, when they go in, my opponent's got to think, okay, what do I need to do in order to either pick them off slowly or kill them off quickly? And killing them off quickly is pretty hard to do with that setup. Bombers is probably the biggest risk to it. But so far, this defense for this week and last week has been almost 40% success rate, which is pretty decent.
Gotcha.
But not many people have bombers, so I'm kind of taking a risk at that, just because I don't run Will on either. The Nemesis on Kasoon and on Camilla, and then my Jultan's on Revenge.
But go ahead.
I was just saying, my Jultan and my Camilla are identical speed, but Jultan's got a higher base speed, so he's going to move first, and then Camilla's going to move right after, and Kasoon's going to buff attack. So you've got the attack buff up, you've got an unCCable for the most part Camilla, and then you have Jultan, who's pretty much not going to be targeted just because of his 5k reflect that he does every time he gets crit. So the concept is Jultan does his armor break, and then Camilla follows and takes something out.
Yep, I love it. And so this is great, guys. I mean, when you're talking about what you see is not what you generally, when you get into the fight, is what you see and what you get into is completely different. So I like what you made a comment about Will versus Nemesis here. a lot of people utilize the Nemesis setup on both your Trasoon and the Camilla. But again, if you guys have a similar composition, you might find a way to trap your opponent, force them to think, oh, there's not going to be any will runes on this, and bring that will and force their bomb team to lose. So definitely a lot of different options to play around with that. On your second team, I love this. I mean, obviously, I see a lot of people utilize like a speed defense kind of a combination when it comes to Velajuel. But with regards to Theo, I feel like the composition that you bring kind of makes it so that it looks like both Velajuel and Theo are going to be two threats, and you got to figure out what you want to focus on. So, what's your take on this particular composition, or what you were trying to accomplish, and pros and cons there?
Well, this one I toyed around with a little bit. I either use Wind Monkey King in that first slot or Theo. The concept behind Theo was to try and fish for a wind unit, for them to bring in some wind monsters to try and take out the water. And if they do that, then you've got Vela, who even with my build, once you put Mihal's defense buff up on him, and if you got an armor breakout, he'll do upwards of 18, 20k damage with his, with his second skill, with the punish skill. So if I can, get those wind monsters out there to try and take out Theo, then Velajuel's protecting him with, immunity and then stealing turns and defense buff, which is probably one of the most underrated skills in the game, in my opinion. It does so much to minimize the damage your monsters take. But that kind of keeps, my Theo alive long enough for either Vela to take out somebody or for Theo to do his violent proc thing. And my Vela is about 123, something like that, or plus 123 speed. So he moves fast enough to kind of get all my monsters to move quickly.
Yep.
And all three of them are on will. So that kind of prevents an initial, stun or whatever it might be on them. An Orion, sure, he can take one of them off, but then you've got a 1 in 3 chance of removing it off of Vela, who, as long as he's not stunned, he's going to keep the other two unstunned.
Yep, I love it. And a good thing to note here, guys, you'll see a lot of people play around with these compositions that put all their eggs in a basket when it comes to one unit. Being able to create a team that has amazing synergy but provides two threats is really going to put your opponent in the back burn. They're going to have to basically choose which one they want to try to focus on first. Sometimes they might not have the opportunity to, again, if you're bringing that will. So definitely take note on that. An amazing composition. I'd have a hard time trying to play around with that, so I love it.
Just to add one thing, about composition and stuff like that, if you look at my team, I've got, I'd say, 14, 15, something like that, nat 5s. I'm only using 2 here, not counting Theo, that I've summoned. And that just, it gives, it kind of shows the importance, and you'll see this throughout our whole guild, except for Goku, of course. But,
Goku, my man.
Yeah, but for the most part, you value the skill set a monster brings more than the value of it being a nat 5, more than the prestige of its, value when summoned versus what it actually brings to the table. And a nat 3 like Jolton just works better for this setup for me than other nat 5s that I've tried to use in the past. And that just, don't undervalue and don't unappreciate something because it's not as hard to get.
Yep. I love it. All right. Let me see. It's funny. I actually just played around with a little bit of Julton in my defense. A lot of people frown upon using him, but I really feel that he can provide some whatnot. So it's good to see some Julton users out there. Shout out to all my Julton users one time. Let me get it in. All right. So, oh man, Kev. So we have seen this. I know we've seen this one time and time and again. When we see Kev's setup in that first team, we're like, really, dude? And then somebody fights him, and they get wrecked. Yeah. So talk a little bit about this composition, and then, of course, we'll get into the standard Theo Orion Trasoon comp there.
All right, well, I mean, Sierra, as we all know, pretty much got buffed into being one of the most desired Guild War and even Arena mons in game, just because of that, that being able to plant a bomb and immediately get a turn to detonate it for 22, something like that, K damage. That's huge. That's I mean, that's pretty much eliminate a threat right off the bat. So, not to mention that, but she's also speed lead. 24% speed lead. So pair that with a really fast Bernard, which is what he did. And if I'm not mistaken, his Chandra is probably 150, 160 speed, something like that. Mm-hmm. So pretty fast. And if you can, get that initial turn from Bernard, and then Sierra ends up planting a bomb, killing somebody. Then while they try and kill Sierra, Chandra hugs, and they're screwed, and then Chandra's going to do his AoE. He's going to stun, everybody. Just it's a lot of movement, a lot of moving pieces in there. and it's got the main elements of a defense, which is armor break and damage and some sustainability.
Yep, I love it. And take note, guys. We're going to look at some of these compositions here, and for some of these people that are seeing something like this, and they get into it and they get wrecked or something like that. You got to look at the bigger picture, okay? When it comes to some of these units that are standard, right, beast monks or whatnot, we understand that with the first skill, you get the critical hit, you get the speed buff. Generally, people love to run like a bruiser type of comp, where we're running HP, crit damage, HP, so on and so forth. When you look at this particular team from the get-go, there's a lot of speed involved. You got a swift-based Bernard, right, and obviously that's going to be a high-speed unit. And then the meta right now when it comes to Ciaras. Ciaras are generally running a little bit of either the speed substats, getting really good speed substats overall, or maybe they're running speed on too, and they got a nice fatal set that's giving them that attack power that they lose. They're making sure that their Bernard and their Ciara are synced, right? There's no point in bringing a 300 speed Bernard with a 110 speed Ciara. They're going to get cut in between. So when you look at this kind of a composition, you have to understand that if they're bringing a Chandra who is technically known as a slower type of unit, but with an ability to bring a swift buff, you gotta expect the fact that he's gonna be bringing a speedier Chandra than most people. So look at the bigger picture when you're analyzing your compositions.
Yeah.
And then of course, Theo, Orion, Chasun, a very very amazing combo. I like this actually a little bit different here. Some people will go back and forth with regards to should I use Theo, should I use Orion on the lead. I like the fact that he is using Orion. Is there anything that you want to kind of point out? I know this is generally a standard composition, but again, some people play around with different things and methods. So what's your take on this particular composition?
Well, my general outlook on Guild Wars and a lot of the Theo based defenses is what they're doing is they're trying to set up a way for RNG to screw you over, is what they're doing. And that's basically whenever you run offense and stuff like that, your whole goal is, okay, how can I minimize the chance of RNG messing me over? You've got Orion and Theo, two of the most random and unpredictable skills in game. Being able to just target whoever he feels like with Theo, and then Orion just kind of randomly taking debuffs, buffs off and applying debuffs. It's unpredictable. And whenever you put your life into RNG's hands, a lot of times you're going to get screwed over. That's kind of the way it works. And when people say, "Oh, I lost to a violent proc," and stuff like that, well, yeah, that's because that's what this defense is meant to do. It's going to capitalize on the fact that randomness and RNG and violent procs can win games on defense, and they're going to take advantage of that system. So when you go against them, you're like, all right, well, I either need to have a way of me controlling this fight, or if I let it up to RNG, then there's a chance that I'm going to get screwed over.
Yep, definitely. And take note, guys. Let's say you're running the composition and it's still yielding you losses. Even though it says you look at your defense log and it says a loss, that a loss may still be a win. And let me explain myself. They might have been able to take out your comp, but if you took out 1, 2 of their units, that's still a win in my book because you crippled them and you forced their inability to take on other people after that. So don't take everything you see for granted. Theo Orion Chasun is an amazing combo with the amount of damage, the output that Theo can do, and like he was saying, the randomness is this still could be a valuable team in your lineup, regardless of the fact that you might still be losing. Obviously, wherever you're at in the competitive level, speed, tuning, the amount of speed that you're bringing on both on all aspects is going to be helping your team out. But it's definitely a strong composition to say the least. I know a lot of people frown upon using like a one unit, like a all focus all on one unit, but it's definitely I see a lot of people that I fight or other people that they fight me that they say, yeah, your Theo just went crazy. They went ham and took out one of my units. I killed him, but I still lost my Bella or whatever,
Like people using Theo, Kasun, and Chloe or something like that.
Yeah.
Everybody but protecting Theo.
Yep. Let me see. Cool. All right. We got next one up. Is it Lewis the Third?
Yep.
He got one of the units that I want, Miss Molly.
Oh yeah, I want her so bad, man.
Oh man,
she's so good. I had a time where my Camilla went for 30 minutes on auto against a Molly, and I couldn't win, and I had to pull a draw on it.
Yep.
So strong.
It is strong. So looking at this first comp here, I love it. We got 2 threats. We got a way of healing. We got a shield. We got buff removal from Molly, and then we got the ability to glance. Tell me a little bit about what's your take on this particular composition, and just overall, what do you like about it?
Well, I mean, it's I'm jealous of the Molly for the fur, you know, all the way. But just you've got damage from, you know, Zing. You've got damage from Kumar. You've got AOE, meaning it's harder to bring certain like squishy mons and kind of follow that elemental advantage rule that defenses have to follow. Um, and you've got glancing part, which is just it's awesome for preventing AOE's and you know wombos and stuff like that from just taking your team out. I'd say the only thing this defense could be susceptible to is bombers, but even then you've got a Kumar with probably 40 plus KHP.
Right.
Molly's probably close to the same, and you know, if got Will Runes, I think you know Molly might. I'm not sure on that one, but it's just it's a risky setup, you know,
Yeah.
because Molly could easily take off an attack buff off of one of the bombers. There's just a lot that could happen.
Yep.
So you've got three very tanky units glancing, and it's got plenty of damage to go out. So it just all around wins.
Yep, I would definitely imagine that they would be rocking some will there since they don't have any kind of attack bar boosting kind of thing. They're definitely susceptible to people that are coming in speedy or the bombs like you say. But if they got that will, that's definitely gonna force the upper hand and force them to remove it before kind of getting into their stuff there. So love it. Second team, Leo comps. I see it frowned upon in the arena, but what's your take when it comes to Guild War arena setups?
I know. I think it was Mav or Mervid. One of those guys was running a Leo, like a Theo, Leo, and Iona
Mm,
comp that did really well. Um, I mean, Leo is good, but Leo is controllable. That's the thing about him.
right.
You know, you know he's going to hit wind first time, no matter what. There's no way of changing that. I'm sorry, why he's going to hit water every single time. So if you bring a Watermon with will on it, you've completely negated the attack bar reduction and the advantage that he provides. But when you throw in a random armor breaker like Orion, you have the chance to put those, you know, armor breaks on Wind, in which case Leo's going to go after that. So it's a little bit, you know, unorthodox setup, but from what I remember, it gets pretty good results, and that's pretty much all that matters, you know. And it's kind of it's it's different, and people don't do well with different. When they see
Oh
something that
yeah.
they haven't seen before, they kind of, you know, they freak out a little bit. So I don't know how to counter this. So their attempts to counter it might not always work, and I think he's kind of going for that surprise aspect.
Gotcha. And when it comes to compositions like this, where they're bringing in like an Orion, Chloe composition, generally a lot of people love. I've always, initially started off with kind of the standard Swift kind of setup or whatnot, but I feel the people that are running the Swift based Orions, sometimes you see them combine it with a violent, Chloe or whatnot. What's your take on the rune builds when people are considering running Theo? And let's take Leo out of the example. Let's just say we're looking at Orion, Chloe, X compositions. What's your take on the rune builds for people running that kind of composition?
I mean, will runes are always good, but you always have to be fast enough. You know, even if it's hard to use certain speed comps with and like Chloe and stuff like that without a speed leader, because nowadays everyone, you know, everyone's got a Galleon, everyone's got a Sierra, whatever there might be. So anytime you go for speed, you have to make sure you have a speed leader with it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get that first turn. You're not going to be able to capitalize on the initial move. But will runes are, I mean, they're huge. They're we talked about that earlier. They're
Right.
just so helpful in every aspect. Uh, but it's kind of depends on what you run and what you've got going on.
So, if all you guys lost, and you better be jumping on that necro, man, getting those will runes while you're while you're listening to this
Yeah.
video. But get on board with that. Okay, here we go. Tebow, I fought him plenty of times in arena and in Guild Wars here. So, let me see here. Oh, I remember that second composition. That one made me rage one time. Okay, so first one here, we got the Fire Monkey King, and then Theo enters soon. So, your take on this particular unit, composition?
The first one, it's you when you give two offensive threats, then your opponent has to bring two defensive tanks. And if you bring a wind tank for the monkey, you can't really bring a tank for Theo, but Theo's normally managed by either killing him first before he can do anything, or protecting yourself by Chloe Fanatic or something like that. So by giving two different threats, you open up that door for RNG to help pull a win for you. And both of those monsters, I guarantee you, hit hard, really hard.
Oh, for sure.
And both are probably on violent. So as soon as you get that first hit, both are applying armor break as well. So the only thing that he is missing is some way of stripping will runes, which is probably the weakness to this defense. And let's be honest, every defense, no matter how much thought, effort, planning, and monster selection you have, is going to have a weakness. There's no way around that. But this one, it's pretty much just a hard hitting, try and knock out and eliminate the tanks for the second defense, which like we talked about earlier. That defense is going to be able to capitalize on a squishy team, or not being able to withstand and deal enough damage to the Kumar and the second team to take them out.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. And this second team, I'm so glad he's using the light barbarian king. We'll definitely talk about that one individually, but the composition here, definitely strong here. Obviously, we got attack bar manipulation. We got our defense, heal disturbs. And a way of healing from Kumar. And for those that are not familiar with the light
Amir.
Right, Amir, he brings a lot to the table. Stuns, attack bar manipulation, on the negative side. So a really interesting composition, to say the least. So,
and the 24% speed lead.
Oh yeah, let's not forget the 24% speed lead. Fail, right? So real strong. So, I don't know if you've been able to take a look at a typical like light barbarian game. Obviously, we don't need to discuss his particular setup on his unit, but a lot of people out there may have pulled them and thrown them in the monster box. So in a Guild Wars kind of setting, what's your take on a particular rune build when it comes to trying to use this one, effectively?
Well, I mean, damage for one. I mean, his third skill depletes the attack bar to completely to 0 and stuns somebody. And it increases his attack speed, I think, something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge utility skill. But the best thing about a light monster, a dark monster on defense, is the fact that they don't care about elemental advantage or disadvantage when it comes to targeting. Mm-hmm. Like a fire will never target a water, even with armor break up, unless it's sub like 20% HP and they can kill it off. Occasionally it happens. But when you've got a monster that hits as hard as Mimir does, and you have Orion that's going to randomly throw out armor break where you can't predict it on the third skill, plus with second skill that the crushing blow armor break, you give him a chance to pretty much one-shot something.
Yep.
And again, that randomness factor. Just light and dark monsters that don't follow elemental advantage are huge on defenses.
Right. Love it. All right, let's see here. Let's take a look at the infamous Goku. Here we go. Okay, so we got ourselves an extremely strong, speedy, damage dealing team up top, or on the left there, and then of course we're finishing off with the Galleon Perna Praha combination. So your insight on this? What do you think?
Well, for one, I think Goku is probably one of the fastest Orions on global. I'm not sure now with grinds, but before that, his was like 270 something. I want to say it's like 286 right now, Orion, which is just insane. And Sierra lead, so you've got the attack bar boost, the armor break, and Sierra to take something out, and then Zyros, which his tank is, he runs a tank Zyros, which I'm pretty sure is on Will. But that's just, it's damage all around, but enough HP to survive and enough attack bar boost to make sure they kind of get the turn first, and just kind of capitalize on those three factors and just kind of YOLO it.
Mm-hmm. I like it. So, he's running, like you were saying, he's running a tankier composition here. Obviously, there's many ways to build, the Zyros or whatnot here. Do you feel that that's kind of the optimal way? I mean, obviously it works for him in his situation, but when it comes to bringing these two threats and trying to do as much damage as possible, could you see a reason for going like a more of a rage well kind of a setup, or more damage dealing setup versus a tankier setup? What do you think?
You can, absolutely. I mean, there's, like you said, there's multiple ways to use him, but Zyros has a very, very unique skill, and that's the skill lockout for everybody he hits, and damage can be found pretty much anywhere. If you need a monster that just does damage, you can find that anywhere. But one that prevents your opponent from doing anything and just standing there and having to take it, especially when you have a Sierra on Violent like his is, dealing insane damage, planting bombs left and right, and then your opponent not being able to cast their immunity, not being able to cast their heals, and whatever else it might be, his team, even though YOLO, can outlast and kill off the opponent team, versus a hard-hitting but kind of squishy like for me all day long, I use my Camilla versus pretty much any Zyros all day long, and Camilla two-shots him. And no matter how hard he hits, he's still susceptible to being killed quickly. I mean, he's got what, 9 point something K
Yeah,
base HP.
it's
He's
not
not
it's
going
not
to
too high.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's going to have 15K at most. That's not a lot at all. That's easily taken out. It is more damage if you're going for an initial, immediate, okay, I'm going to kill you type setup, but it's not a safer, sustainable, more reliable setup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does definitely. All right. Let's take a look at the second composition: Galleon, Perna, Praha. Any insight to that? Definitely a very, very damage dealing Perna that I've seen him bring. So
Oh yeah,
it's
and
gonna
not only
wreck
that, but
things.
fast.
Yeah, yeah,
His
fast too.
Praha is like 220, something like that speed. His Perna is 203, I think, and then Galleon's 204. So you don't expect him to be that fast. First off, so you've got an AOE strip and then two nukers that you either attempt to kill off before they move, which is not that easy if they're 200 plus speed, or you can try and tank it, which isn't easy either if you're going to have your immunity stripped off and then have a AoE armor break followed by a perna that still crits 35 40k.
Right.
you know it's meant to immediately pick off one monster and then slowly pick off the other two. And his Galleon, I think, is pretty tanky as well, and even his perna's got 23 24k HP with 200 and something speed and 160 170 crit d. Just insane stats.
Yep. Yep. It's I love it. And so, let me see here. Obviously, we'll get to this next team composition here, but just a quick note on the Galleon compositions. I always figure out these side questions to throw your way or whatnot.
Mhm.
Depending on how you got it set up in your team, it's going to matter on the synergy. But your take on Galleon in your eyes, right? What would, if you were to build them? How would you do it? Like a lot of people, if they're making these YOLO comms, you see a lot of people that are focused on making him a little bit more of a hybrid, making sure he has the accuracy. I mean, that's a very, very important role. But you see some people notice that his damage multiplier is not too bad, so they'll run like a crit damage to make him another, so to speak, threat. But then you got some people that are like, no, 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 make him tanky. He's there for support. Go that route. What's your take on that unit?
uh I don't. Well, for one, almost all my mons that I use and ones that I prefer, utilizing is, I think my guild feels the same way, is using monsters that have multiple uses. You don't want something that only has one use when you only have a choice of using three monsters in Guild Wars. So using a only support or only something else, it seems like a waste when you can try and get a little bit of both out of it. I personally run HP, crit rating, and I think HP on my Galleon, and I use speed subs to get him faster than my fastest nuker, which is I think Camila. So I'll have I think he's 2 or 3 speed faster, so that'll be my setup for when I pair him with Camila, or when I use him with like a mirror or something like that, I'll use Leo. But it's geared to fit my monsters, but he'll still crit 10k on that second skill,
Yep.
and he crits. He's almost got 100% crit, so it's consistent. I know my Galleon's going to do 4 or so 5k with the first skill. I know he's always going to do around 10k with the second skill against average armored monsters, and that knowledge and that output has been the difference between a win or loss many times.
Yep.
A tanky Galleon is nice, but how often is, I don't know, he's not going to be targeted to where, if you use Galleon in the first place, you're probably going for an output based team. So why use a support tanky monster while the other ones are going to be your damage and output, and he's just going to hold them back? That make you know what I mean?
Yep. I like it. I like it. Yep. Let's see here. So we got next one up, One Sunny, rocking that Juton, Camila, Chloe comp. We've seen already your composition that actually brought to the tune, but now, of course, we got the Chloe. Definitely taking advantage of the speed leader skill, like you were saying, definitely providing the speed lead when it comes to Chloe to make sure that she's the number one fastest unit. Then, of course, we got Camila to do the dirty work on the side. Anything you kind of wanted to add from your previous notes on the Juton Camila combo?
I mean, similar to mine. The only difference is that the Chloe provides that initial protection against bombs and stuff that mine was kind of susceptible to. However, the lack of attack buff hurts Camila, because Camila, even the hardest hitting Camila, is not going to do a ton of damage with just by herself or even with just armor break. It's not until you add attack buff that Camila does enough damage to actually wreck somebody and take something out. So it's a different approach to it, but I want to say that both of our defenses have similar results. It just kind of depends on who hits them and who what they bring against it.
Gotcha. All right, and then we got finishing off here Veramos, Kumar, Bella. We got damage, we got cleansing, we got reliable defense breaks and attack bar manipulation. Overall, pretty standard comp, but it's a strong one.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to, the meta has kind of shifted into the whole Sierra and stuff like that, and the speed and the initial strike type, comps. But for some of us are limited by what monsters we have. Me, for instance, the reason I don't run speed comps is not because I don't like them or don't want to, is the fact that I just don't have any. I don't
Right.
have Sierra, I don't have Chew, I don't have, any of those monsters with the 22, 24% attack. And I have Galleon, but I don't have a Perna or another, hard hitting self healing or self reliant, bulky nuker that I can make that sort of setup with. So I have to resort to using something different.
Yep.
And it could just be that he's, doing the same thing. But I mean, that's a very solid, all around, universally threatening, hard to kill setup.
Yeah, buddy, I love it. I do the same composition, but I use Sandra instead of Kumar. I don't have Kumar, so
Yeah.
let's see here. OrangeDreamz, definitely a noted name. People have seen him. I think he's been playing for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
I could have swore I've seen him way back in the day. in the
The
top,
funny
top
thing, too, like, I know his Theo is unawakened right now, but right now his defense record, let me see if I can look it up. Where are you at? He is 1, 2, 3. He's got 7 successes, 4 draws, and 1 loss on his defense right now.
Oh my god, it's nuts! That is nuts.
And I think either people take that Theo too lightly, or I don't know what it is, but Theo, I mean, Iona is just so strong in Guild Wars.
Yes, she
She's
is.
insane.
She is.
Again, but like I was pointing to earlier about the defense buff, her providing that after she revives is just it's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, and again, defense buff so underrated. People don't realize how strong it is. So it's definitely nice. Let me see here. This
Yeah,
next
if you're
one.
ever struggling against a Theo, bring a defense buff and put attack break on him. He'll hit for 2K. It's easy.
There you go. Love it. And then, of course, the second composition is kind of funny. It seems like the Camila comps are evolving. We have now the attack buff we're talking about, the protection, and then, of course, the defense break. So, yeah, it's good stuff here.
Yep, and I mean that one worked. I might steal that idea because he's getting more success with that than I'm with my Julton one. But I think he's got his Camille. I think hits a little bit harder, and his Galleon might be a little bit faster, and so is his Chloe. But I mean overall, I might steal that idea from him.
There you go. Hey, it's all good. I'll take it. I'll take it. Let's see here. Cameron. Ooh, dusting off. Is it Kabila? Is that Kabila, the
Yep.
light harpy or light? Yeah,
Yeah,
harpy.
the
Whatever.
fastest attack bar boosting monster in game.
Yeah, buddy. All right. So we got ourselves Galleon, Teor, Kabila, and then of course finishing off here Theo, um, Chloe, and the Wind Monkey King. I forgot his name. Zing Z. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. So, all right. I love to hear about this first comp here.
I mean, the first combat, it's pretty basic. It's not pretty basic, but it's pretty, the concept behind it is you've got the fastest attack bar boosting monster in game, Kabila, with I think 120 base speed. You've got Galleon, so you've got the fastest possible speed leader, and I'm sure his towers are max as well. And I'm guessing that, that Kabila is probably close to 300, let's say, speed. So he's pretty much guaranteeing himself that first turn. And then Tower is gonna, he's gonna do, serious damage. I'm pretty sure he's probably speed at CD attack build versus
Right.
a Squall type. But just the concept is okay. I'm going to AOE and deal as much damage as humanly possible. If you survive it, you do. If not, I win.
Yep, good deal. Yeah, I would imagine he's on speed, considering how much speed he's probably bringing on Kabila. So let's see.
And
here.
also, one thing that's underrated with this team is the fact that he gets the anti-crit buff from Kabila as well.
Yep. Yep. Very, very strong. I love it. I love it. All right. And then, of course, a team that I always love to skip because I just can't stand these Wind Monkey Kings paired up with Theos. A nice setup for sure. A lot of damage here. A lot of counterattacks. Oh, it has everything. It's good.
Yeah, that's similar. I mean, kind of like we were talking about earlier with the Fire Monkey King and that setup. This provides 2 threats.
Mm-hmm.
You go for the monkey first, who's going to be tankier, is going to be harder to kill, but you leave yourself open to Theo taking out one of your mons, or do you go for Theo, but have the Monkey King countering and stunning your mons as you're trying to take him out,
Yep.
and then you've got the protection from Chloe. So it's just a very well synergized setup, and I'm sure all both of those are fairly, fast, and the Chloe's, probably really fast.
Yeah, if he's not running the speed lead, he's probably really fast, for sure. Let's see here. Run YOLO GWD. All right, I guess he's putting it out there for these people
Yeah.
out there. Another Camila comp here, and then of course we got the Galleon Bernard Perna composition. Let's talk about the initial one: Tessarion, Camila, and Chloe.
Tessarion is, I mean, Tessarion's underrated, I think, in Guild War, but it's because he doesn't shine in any one aspect. He doesn't have insane damage. He doesn't have, super tankiness. He doesn't have AOE, but he does provide, Oblivion, which is useful depending on what they bring. But he does provide armor break, which sets up for Camila. And he specifically told me to make sure I get a picture of this one to send it because that's the one that he likes running a lot, and it gets him a lot of wins. I think 60+% win rate, and so it performs well. Personally, I wouldn't have thought of using it, but based on the results, you can't argue facts.
Nope, you can't. No, I love it. And then of course the standard Galleon Bernard damage dealer composition, really strong. And of course we got the benefit of Perna providing a little bit of heal for the opponents here. But yeah, that's just it's nasty. Stay away from it.
And a lot of people don't have a counter for it just because they don't have a faster Bernard. And what do you do if you can't outspeed your opponent and your opponent's going to do 20, 30K, damage to you? And we all know how, Perna likes to violent proc and, tear people up. And it's just, yeah, it's hard to pick a defense when you know you're going to be slower.
Yep, it is very hard. I love it. Cool. It looks like that is the last one here. Yeah, here. We'll put this in here for the epic fail from Com to us. God bless their heart. We're making this video on the day where they had themselves the service error where we couldn't connect. So the epic fail stories that we'll talk about here. We got to put Comtos out here real quick one time. We're getting ready to record this. Yeah, shout out to Comtos one time. We're getting ready to record this. 2 hours beforehand, the game goes down. I can't connect. So I took a picture and advised the people over there. I'm sure they already knew before I sent it, but yeah, that's classic there. So that was the way how I knew that was the end of it. So an amazing review of all the units. Thank you so much for providing that. Let me see here. I wanted to ask you something else along the way, but I kind of forgot it. So I guess I'll go ahead and get to my next biggest question that I love to ask all my people that come on board when it comes to Guild Wars. There's a lot of things that we see within the Guild Wars, the game, the way it's set up and whatnot. Some things have changed for the better, for the worse. But in your eyes, if you had one thing to change about the game when it comes to Guild Wars, what would that be and why?
Personally, if I was to change something, would be finding a way to know who hit you with what. I know that's kind of a taboo subject because a part of the the ingenuity of the game is the fact that you don't know who beat you with what. But even if it's just an idea of knowing what type of monsters end up beating your defense, it would open up a whole new door in terms of how we build our defenses, because you just simply don't know how it was that you got killed. You don't know what happened, and when you don't know, you end up trying to figure out a way to counter something that could be wrong in the first place. If you try and counter for what you think they did, you know what I mean?
Right. Yep. For sure. Let me see here. I'm trying to think if I had anything to add. There was nothing that I wanted to change. Like I said, that I wish the whole Guild Wars, the amount of people that attack you and whatnot, I wish they kind of figured something out. I know that some people are fortunate enough to not get attacked too much at the end, and some people get attacked 50,000 times.
Yeah.
But hopefully they can work something out at the end there.
It's hard with such a randomized system because it goes off of rankings. I mean, if you right now it's pretty much okay if you're in the same bracket, if you're in the same point bracket, that's the person that you pick. And with that flowing so much, if how else do you do it? Do you have them target, okay, if the guild's gotten hit twice, you don't let them get hit again. But if they're the only one within that range of points, then you either make them hit somebody too far ahead or too far behind. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And my Bethany's probably one of my favorite monsters, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah, I think we played around with it in the rifting world.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, she's one of my favorite mons.
Fun units for sure. as far as you already know this one's coming. Probably one of my favorite questions to ask all my guests, the epic fail stories and whatnot. What is your greatest epic fail story in the game, out of the game, and why?
Um, I would say my Lupinus and
Oh, I'm so
McKean.
glad you said that. I saw that and I was like, bro, I wanted to almost like just stop you right there, like, bro, what is this? What
Yeah.
is this lupinus? What are you doing there? Fail.
Okay. Now there, I think I actually got skill ups on her too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, goddamn.
No, no. Okay. Cool. Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, fail.
A lot. Okay. If you look at the last skill, the attack bar reduction, and I was going to put despair on her and have her stun user for TOA hard.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
actually works out pretty well. I was using it on the art level, and pretty much to use her to reduce the attack bar and to give me more time to attack, plus stunning at the same time.
Right.
So in that terminology, in that basis, it did work, but it also I couldn't control who it hit, and it would just kind of go all over the place, or it would just it was too unpredictable and too no damage whatsoever. I just didn't care for it. I used it like 2 3 times trying to make it work, and she's been sitting on the bench ever since.
There you go.
And
All right.
McKean was the other one. I think she's in my storage actually.
Yeah, yeah.
But McKean, I used McKean for one attempt or two attempts at I think the Kraka level on TOA hard. Made her just for that one boss trying to or was it? I can't remember. Anyways, but I made her for TOA hard. Tried her 2 times and it just didn't work, and she's been benched ever since. So it was one of those experimental mons that someone had to do it to see if it was viable or not. I just happened to be the guinea pig at the time, and I suffered the consequences.
There you go. Hey, it's all good though. That's the beauty of this game. We got so many people that are willing to test out a lot of stuff and then provide that knowledge for not just the people in the guild, but the forums and whatnot, so people can make or break that knowledge and see if they want to use it in their game. So I'm glad that you got an opportunity to test that out, because I would have never
Take one
even
for the
thought of.
team.
Yeah, I would have never even thought about to look about that attack bar and be like, see, when I saw that skill initially when this unit came out, I saw the attack bar decrease by 20%, but I forgot the fact that it hits two people, or sorry, the single target 2 times, and
Yeah,
then
that's
all enemies.
60% to one target, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
20% to everyone else.
yeah.
And I think the
Definitely.
second was a second skill again. I'm trying to remember.
Second skill, the cooldowns
Oh yeah,
for 2 turns.
and oh yeah, that's what I was using. I was using that and putting it on Artamiel and trying to neutralize the heal, and then use the rest to stun the Yeti and stun the Wind Monkey. So the concept was there, but even with low crit, she would crit nonstop and just she was taking too much damage,
Right.
and that was a problem with it. But I mean, the skill set's not as bad if you know where to use it.
Yeah.
But and then I ended up getting monsters that just had something similar like my Mihal and then Sekhmet that um, reset skills. So I just don't have a need for it anymore.
Yep. Right on. Right on. Uh, I'm so glad we got to talk about that, because I was I was sitting there like, oh man, I hope he doesn't let us know about that one. I'm trying to think if I got any new fails. I mean, I actually, well, what I'll do is I'll kind of give a sneak peek. I'll tell you on the side, right? I'll
Okay.
tell you on the side, but well, we'll just say I got a good, um, I got a good epic fail. I've been putting out epic fail of the week videos as of late, and we got an interesting guild war fight from Tish Mittens of Absolute Void. So
Uh-huh.
just know that I really failed hard with my things. So just
I had a mini epic fail or today in Guild War or last night against when we were going against Swag. I was fighting Reefy, and first team I won that one. Second team I go in there, and my Camilla was doing about 3 or 4K damage, and I was like thinking to myself, man, this Orion that she's hitting is really tanky. Well, then I realized that I'd brought my level 34 tank Milla with 43K HP to fight instead of my
yeah,
damage oriented one.
yeah. There you
And yeah,
go.
that one right there. I had brought that Camilla instead of my other one, and I had no way of killing the Julton Kassoon Orion that he had. There was no way. And I had like Sekhmet and Camilla with, I think, Kassoon or something like that. And there was no way I could kill anything. So I just went on for about 20 minutes and then drew.
Mm. Nice. Must be nice to have two Camillas, huh? Must be nice.
Well, the other one's been sitting in storage forever, but now with the whole Rena and Camilla craze, I'm thinking about doing like an Ariel Camilla with a 50k HP Chandra and maybe Veligil
There you
80
go.
stall defense.
There you go. Watch out now. Don't give all your tips out now. Now everyone's gonna be studying now. All right. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I want to give you the opportunity, Pando, to kind of give a shout out to anybody and everybody out there in the community.
Oh yeah, well I mean shout out to Oblivion Guild, for sure. Goku's probably one of the nicest guys that you never get a chance to meet just because he doesn't talk a lot.
Right.
But he really is. He does so much for the guild. The guy literally goes and makes a spreadsheet of our defenses every single week and matches it to the previous week in terms of success rate, the win rate, loss rate, draw rate, and everything, so that we have a chance to look it over and find out how our defense did from one week to the previous and use it to compare notes and, in order to strengthen our own defenses up, which is also something that I would advise for most guild leaders to do if they're trying to push themselves up and do better. Have a way of, kind of figuring out what you did before, if it worked or not, and what you can do in the future to either better something or to, keep it the same way if it wasn't performing as well. And the guy spends hours just looking over every single person's individual defense and then giving tips and ideas to them via line or whatever. And I think that as a whole, that kind of foundation of the guild has, really helped us. And it's, a testament to our current rank and our achievements.
Yes, for sure. And again, if I didn't see it previously on the week that you guys did get it, congratulations on getting the #1 rank last month, I believe it was.
Yeah, we've got it 3 times total, I think, in the past few months.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, for a guild that has never rushed on Saturday, it's not too bad of an achievement.
Nah, not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Yeah, if we didn't make a note on that, early on as far as the tips and tricks go, we do the same thing for both of our competitive guilds with regards to the spreadsheet and analyzing the win, loss, and draws. A very, very important thing for all you guild leaders and vice leaders out there. Make sure you take note of that. It's very, very easy to come up with, create. There might even be one like a blanket spreadsheet floating around with some basic stuff that you can put in there. So look around for that. It's good stuff. Let me see, Pando. We've had a lot of people come on board. Obviously, we've been focusing a lot on Arena, and then we kind of branched into some Guild Wars teams and whatnot. So since you being on Global, we've had ourselves a nice handful of guilds that have come on board and kind of talked about their stuff. If there was one guild maybe that is kind of like your situation, where they're kind of a dark horse, maybe unique, maybe not a lot of people know about them, what would that guild be and why, as far as an upcoming episode for Educate and Dominate?
I mean, initially, I'd say Malicious would be one of the most difficult for us to hit in terms of their defenses. We've heard many times before that our defense is probably one of the top, one of the strongest, if not, top 3 defenses on Global to beat. But I'd say, AV and Malicious are close to there as well. But I would say Pornographic is one of those kind of fun dark horses that's got a lot of latent talent from people that either, used to play a lot and then don't play as much now, kind of like Burke's in there, I think, Decimator. And, there's other great players in there that, they're ranked 12 right now, and they've ranked top 10 before.
Yep.
And they're only about 2 months old, something like that, a month and a half old.
They're really
and they're, I mean, it's a fun, strong guild from what I can tell. And a lot of contenders in there as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see them pushing ranks.
Yeah, buddy. I have had Burke on individually, but we might have to bring him on board again to get him talking about the guild and whatnot. So, but yeah, thank you for that insight. Again, that's pretty much it for the Educate and Dominate video featuring Oblivion. Thank you so much again, Pando, for always showing your love in our video and all the support that you do for the community. I appreciate it, sir.
It was my pleasure, man. I appreciate you for having me.
Alrighty. So thank you guys all for tuning in. It's a pleasure to make these videos for you. As always, it's your boy Childish and Pando with ChildishPlays. Checking out. Take care, and we will see you next time, guys. We're out.
Later.